Hello, Fit family. We are here to talk about the squat. I know there are a million different videos, but this is going to be the best one that you watch. I am Cat Kom with Studio Sweat On Demand, and I am here with
Mimi Sinclair.
Mimi is also a trainer here with Studio Sweat On Demand, and she has some great insight on the basic squat that we're going to cover today. So Mimi, why is it important to do a squat properly?
Oh my gosh, so many reasons. So to protect your back, to protect your knees, to protect your hips. The squat is a great exercise. It's a big muscle exercise, but you have to do it correctly.
Yep, absolutely correct. So what are the benefits of doing squats?
Well, strength, right? So everything you do to get off the floor, you use your legs, and the squat is the perfect way to train that. So I would say squats are probably the key core exercise everybody should be doing correctly.
Absolutely. And would you say that it's one of the #1 exercises you see people do incorrectly?
That and deadlifts.
That and deadlifts. We've got a lot of vlogs on deadlifts as well. So go to Studio Sweat On Demand, just go to the vlog section. You'll see a lot of videos on deadlifts. All right, now let's get into the meat of it. Let's talk about how to do a squat for you, okay? Because it's not a one size fits all. Before we do that though, I'd love for you to watch this little 10-second promo video. That is for my favorite fitness app, Studio Sweat On Demand.
If you're looking for a convenient, motivating way to get or stay fit, Studio Sweat On Demand has a huge library of ad-free on-demand workouts with non-stop hot new releases, all featuring real people just like you. Start your 7-day free trial by downloading our app. It's risk-free with no credit card required. So get started today.
All right, you guys, so now let's get into the nitty-gritty, how to do a squat that's right for you, because it's a little bit different for everyone, right, Mimi?
Right, so where you put your feet is going to be up to you, and it's really important to start with a mirror. So First things first, feet may be a little bit narrow, they may be a little bit wide, and you may have one toe that's out a little bit further than the other. It's really about how your knees are tracking. So the importance of playing with your feet a little bit in a mirror is step one.
Okay, great. Yeah, I had a trainer one time a couple of years ago, and I've been training a long time, that she told me if you just jump up wherever your feet land, and I've got one toe that's turned out more than the other here, that's probably your best position for your squat. So you could start there, but then play with it like Mimi was saying. All right, then what?
Okay, so the next thing is movement. How do you start the movement? The biggest mistake. Oh my gosh, people start moving with their knees. That is not where we start. So, starting with your hips going back, that's key. That automatically shifts the weight to your heels, and that's where we start the movement of a squat. The biggest mistake is I see people holding weights in their hands, and they start the movement with their knees going forward. That hurts my knees just doing this movement.
Yep, show them from the side real quick, Mimi, too. So this is what not to do.
Please, please, please do not lead with your knees going over your toes. That already is gonna load the back, load the front of the knee. Bad, bad idea. So instead, you shift the weight so it's in your heels, and you lead with your bum going back. That puts you in a much, much better position.
I love it. And you're absolutely right. And that's such a simple thing to think about. So I like to tell people, hinge back, not forward, right?
Yes,
exactly.
absolutely.
How low do you need to go when you're doing a squat?
I think it really depends on the person, you know. So the key for me when you're thinking about how low to go is, where do you start to lose form and your chest is going too far forward and you're loading the low back, rather than actually having all the weight in your quads, glutes, that area.
Okay.
So for some people, it may be just here.
Yeah.
You know, because then as soon as they go lower, their chest goes forward and they lose the movement. So keeping the chest up, making sure that your gaze is slightly forward, will determine how low you can go. I know for me, my hips are pretty tight, so my range is limited.
Yeah, me too. Whereas I see some of the Studio Sweat on-demand trainers, and they're like, boom, all the way down. And I can do that on a good day. But also something to consider is, how are you feeling that specific day? So some days you might be able to get lower than others, right?
Absolutely. Depending on what you did the day before or the day before that is going to determine the tightness in your hips, flexibility in your back, and you know how your feet are placed is going to play a big difference too. If you're a more narrow stance, you should not be going as low.
True.
If you're a bit wider, you probably can go a little bit lower.
That's a really good point. How do they know if they've gone too low? What things might they start to see?
Too low, well, you lose the efficacy in your quads, right? Mm-hmm. So it's almost like a rest period if you're too low.
And look at your knees over your toes,
and knees over toes. But you get so low that you've come out of the movement and then you're having to power up rather than probably a more slow raise, which is what we want to focus on for the beginning steps.
Yeah. What about people's back position? Do you ever see like if their back starts to round or anything like that? Is that a clear indicator?
Your weight's probably too heavy if your back starts to round. That's a key one.
Good point.
And you've lost your form. Again, mirrors are so important when you're watching what you're doing with the squat.
And you can see how she's facing to the side here. That's because if her mirror were right there, that's probably what she would do, is she would be facing to the side. And you just want to take a little peek, you know, as you're going down, and then get your head back in that neutral spine position. Let's talk about one more thing, okay? Let's talk about loading your squat. Yes or no?
Loading your squat.
Yeah.
Adding weight to it?
Adding weight, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm a big fan.
Okay.
Yes. So, especially over time in the same session, start a little bit light, then go heavier, then go heavier. I think that's a great way to build muscle. So I'm a big fan. But I will tell you a tip that my trainer taught me.
I worked out with her trainer, by the way. She almost killed me.
When you start to go really heavy, like you're challenging yourself in that way, she recommends that you do them barefoot. And so I think that's a really great way to find the proper weight in your feet if your positioning is correct. So if you're really gonna go for it on heavy weights, I would say, you know, maybe find a clean gym floor.
Yeah.
And
Or home. Yeah.
And go barefoot.
Okay, interesting. I've actually never done that, but I will definitely give it a try. Is there anything else that you can do to help people perfect their squat for them?
I would just say start without weights.
Yeah.
You know, that's so key. Make sure it's a soft movement. It shouldn't be a jerky movement when you start. And you don't want to go too heavy out of the gate. Then you load the hips, you load the ankles, you load the knees, and you've lost the whole benefit of the squat.
Yeah, really good advice. All right, Mimi, well, those are some amazing tips. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with us today. If you are looking for a lot of amazing workouts that have squats in them, head over to studiosweatondemand.com or download Studio Sweat On Demand in the App Store or Google Play. And we have tons of workouts there where we do a lot of squatting. I will tell you that, and we'll make sure you're doing them right. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you there.